What's up, everybody? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic.
I'm Jammin, John.
And we have yet another album review for you, and one that I will admit I totally overlooked, which is weird because I've been listening to this band since their debut, so my bad. Anyway.
I found it. I found it while I was at work on the shitter.
And to be fair, you guys commented actually during the premiere for Coffins. You guys reminded me about this one, and even in the comments, was like, oh, wow, how did I miss that one? I suck.
Fail.
Anyway, we are going to go over the latest offering from The Absence, simply titled The Absence. This also comes out on the 29th of March on Listenable Insanity Records. It's been formed in 2002 in Tampa, Florida. This is their 6th full-length overall. I've been a fan of them since pretty much their debut. I was a big fan of their last album, Coffinized, and honestly, the one that I still keep returning to this day is their second album, Riders of the Plague, which I just think is a riffy jammer of an album. Like, it's just flat out fun to listen to.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest here. I haven't listened to The Absence since Riders of the Plague. My buddy Mike Leach showed me The Absence and that album, and it was killer, and I loved it, and I haven't listened to The Absence since. So here we are.
So there's been an absence of The Absence.
There's been an absence, a complete absence of The Absence.
And for those of you that aren't familiar with this band, they are straight up melodeath. Like, that is the best way to describe them. Features current members of Deicide, Inhuman Condition, and Hot Graves. Actually, all three of the members are pretty much represented in those bands. Jeremy Kling, Taylor Nordberg, and Jamie Stewart. This band has been running as a three-piece for a little while now. And yeah, they've all been kind of busy with their other projects, and I did not even know that this was coming out.
Yep, I had no idea.
But as soon as we started jamming, I was like, yeah, no, it's like they never left. It sounds like The Absence, which you could pretty much say, yeah, it sounds like At the Gates, Hypocrisy, In Flames, Arch Enemy. This band really gravitates towards late 90s and early 2000s Gothenburg melodic death metal, and that is their gear. That is what they do, and once again, they are doing it.
Yep, that is the gear of this album.
It's the gear of their career, if we want to get more into the rhyme schemes there.
You're a poet and don't know it. Where this band excels, at least on this record for me, are the songs Vagrant Death and Planetary Mortuary. Both those songs are noticeably more aggressive, very riffy, and very catchy moments in the harmonies, at least. Like, the chorus of both those songs has a really, really good harmonized tag in them.
Yeah, I just kind of like it when they kind of go full bore. Like, I mean, when they get to that faster gear, it instantly kind of sounds like At the Gates, like just down to the drumming, the riffs themselves. I would definitely say, again, a lot of early In Flames because of the frequency of lead play in here. Yeah. Not just in terms of like long solos, because you do get long and short solos in here, but lead melodies on top of the riff, which is kind of a staple of melodeath. And the vocals. Jamie's vocals are kind of like that uniform, like, just like you hear it and it's like, yeah, this is melodeath. There's no way it's anything else. Like, he could just lead in the song, and what you would expect later is something that sounds like a melodeath band.
Growls, but they're raspy and kind of throaty yelling. But speaking in terms of dynamics, at least, Planetary Mortuary has a bunch of different parts to it, including a really awesome tapping lead. So it's not like straightforward Gothenburg, but it's there.
It's in the city limits.
Yep.
I do like the dynamic flip-ups there, and there's some really cool atmospheric sections, especially when you get down to the bridge. Like, the bridge has some really cool transitions in it. Again, it feels a little bit more spacey and cosmic. There's some, like, interesting vocal filters.
That eerie melody, that fade in of the eerie melody, and that kind of like swingy, jazzy drum beat, and it's a good probably 15-20 seconds of this gradual fade in.
Yeah, and a lot of these songs like to just kind of explode right out of the gate, like the opening track, Communion Carbonized, right away, just into it, like, hey, this sounds like Slaughter of the Soul. I remember that album. I remember liking it. I'm going to keep listening. But another song that I think kind of opens that up a little bit and still kind of stays in that kind of At the Gatesy formula is The Silent Eye. You have the galloping melodic riffs, like there's a little bit of like urgency to it, like it's charging into battle. Great groovy sections. I like the switch ups on it. And again, a really cool bridge that kind of opens up the song a little bit. Like, not quite like proggy or anything like that,
No.
but it shows some like dynamics and some flash.
And you notice so far in this review, there's one band that we didn't really mention that probably should be mentioned as far as a sleevable influence, we'll call it that. The last two tracks, Escape Artist and Breeding Hysterics, Carcass Heartwork.
There are some very Bill Steer-ish guitar harmonies, especially on Escape Artist, which that song is a little bit of a break too, because it doesn't follow the like kind of double time mid-tempo or the faster kind of like thrashy blast beat. It's more just sort of like a galloping kind of like mid-tempo Amon Amarth sort of like anthem. But when it gets down the bridge, all of a sudden these Carcass harmonies come out, and like, I mean, if you've been listening to Carcass for any amount of time, you're going to hear them like, yeah, no, that sounds a lot like Carcass. And that is far from the only moment of familiarity. In fact, there was one track in here where I feel as though like it has to be either like a very transparent tribute, or like they just played something so close to the main riffs that, man, it instantly reminded me of specific songs by At the Gates and In Flames. Grieving Winds. The opening riff on there, it's either Terminal Spirit Disease or it's right off of Slaughter of the Soul. I can't remember specifically, but I know that riff is on an At the Gates album. And while I was rapidly going through my phone and like, which song is it? Which song is it? The bridge comes up and there are these folky guitar lead melodies on top of this mid-tempo riff. And it sounds like Artifacts, The Black Rain off of The Jester Race.
Yeah.
Very close, like so close, like it instantly just kind of got me right there. And again, this band has been playing Melodeath for years now, since 2002. I'm sure there are like some transparent nods over the years of just like, hey, let's play something that is sort of an ode to some of the bands that influenced us. But these were so close, and they take up a good chunk of the song. So while I like the song, like it's a little bit more dark and dreary, it doesn't feel like it's entirely theirs, which, I don't know, like, I mean, a lot of this sounds very familiar, but that one was just very specific.
And folky melodies are a big part of melodic Gothenburg stuff. I mean, out of all the bands we just mentioned, you're telling me that folky melodies don't play a part? Surface of a Dead World is full of pretty acoustic melodies. Definitely folky, once again. And when the harmonies kick in, they kick in with electric guitar. It's an interlude, but it is very musical and very pretty.
Yeah, I really like all the guitar layering on that in particular, and the melodies are awesome. I mean, Taylor's a hell of a guitarist.
Yeah.
I've seen him play multiple times. And his melodic accents that are all over here, I think, are really well placed. Fleshwalker also opens up with like a really good acoustic, folky passage. In fact, I think it should have followed Surface of a Dead World, because they could have played off of each other.
Yeah, they could have bookended Surface of a Dead World into Fleshwalker, and it would have made more sense.
Yeah, and there's some really cool lead work on that song in particular, because they do like a multi-tracked lead. Like, it's not just lead harmonies. There are two separate leads being played that complement one another. So, I mean, guitar work-wise, I think this has a lot of cool stuff on it. Like, there's really solid riffs. There's really solid leads. It's just, it feels kind of stock in terms of at least like the riff work.
Most of this sounds like the bands that have already done it. And it's right down to things like guitar tone, drum tone, the production overall. And the production overall in this is a gripe of mine. The drums are super thin. The rhythm guitars, right off the rip, are very thin. In fact, it's not until later in the album that I think my ear just got used to it that it may have picked up a little bit more. There's not a lot of reverb going on things. It just feels kind of dry.
Yeah, just kind of a flat bassline mix, at least. I know that Jeremy and Taylor did the production here, and it's not bad, but like listening to older albums where the guitars popped, the drums had more punch to them, this just feels like, I don't know, a little watered down or distilled.
Raw, maybe.
And, you know, while the songs are fast and aggressive, I think with like a bigger production, they would feel more invigorating. And that's just sort of something that is missing on here. And right now there seems to be like a resurgence of this sound. Majesties, Upon Stone, both of those bands are playing like very classic Gothenburg style melodeath. But I think the difference is there's just more of like a heartfelt love for it.
Yeah. And
it kind of comes out in the songwriting. Like the songwriting here is good, but and a lot of these songs just kind of stay in their lane. You know, it's kind of predictable to a point where like, all right, this is the part where the mid-tempo part comes in, breakdown, lead. You know, you can kind of tell where a lot of these songs are going almost from like the first 15 to 30 seconds. I do think this album has some strengths too. I like the fact that the vocals stay harsh. There are no clean vocals that kind of like, well, that kind of just weenifies the whole, you know, chorus there. Like, well, we got a nice little sing-songy thing. I like that it stays aggressive. I prefer that in my melodeath where the music itself carries the melodies, not the vocals so much. But I mean, I feel like a lot of this album, there was just like some missed opportunities or teased opportunities to really kind of open up these songs. Like Planetary Mortuary, I think, is an excellent song. There's some really great dynamics in there, and it's a clear standout because it's doing some different things, and it's not so far removed from their sound at all. Like, there's a lot of killer melodeath out there that kind of branches out a lot. Like, Insomnium does a lot of, like, proggy flourishes now, and at no point would I say they don't sound like Insomnium. They still 100% do. They just keep expanding their sound. This band, while I like what they do, it's kind of been stuck in the same gear for a while now. And while there are albums I really like because there's, like, a certain level of intensity or invigoration that comes out in them, this one kind of falls a bit by the wayside, to the point where, you know, I could probably listen to some of the classic ones instead of this one and kind of get the same feeling or get the feeling that I'm missing.
Yeah, I agree with that statement a lot. So overall, I'm going to give this record 3 stars. It's catchy. There's a lot of solid transitions. There's definitely good riffs, good leads, good harmonies, quite a few up-tempo songs. Like, when they go for it, they go for it. But the problem I saw, too, is that it sticks a little close to home and a little too close to the influences that it is trying to emulate, and it doesn't really stray outside of that. Part of the catch to the absence, at least in the beginning, or the earlier albums for me, was not only did they carry their influential tone, but they also carried something that made it still unique to them. And in this case, it just stays a little bit too close to, again, everybody it's trying to emulate, that it's forgotten some token vibes of the absence. Like, some more of that intensity. And again, maybe it's brought on by the lack of the mix here in this case. Like, it doesn't sound terrible, but again, it being as flat as it is doesn't give the guitars really a chance to shine, I think, as much as they would. And the drums, I'm not 100%. I gotta be honest. It sounds like it was played on an electronic kit. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's not. Maybe it was just the mix, but that kind of took a little bit away from me. Overall, though, if you're a fan of Carcass, At the Gates, Hypocrisy, Early Arch Enemy, things like that, you're probably still going to dig this. I recommend giving it a spin, but overall for me, it was just 3 stars. It was kind of there.
Yeah, I'm at a 3 as well. Not the strongest 3, but still, like, I think it's a good album. It executes the sound, even though it's done it better before. There's a lot of good leads. You know, there are some really good catchy songs, but again, I feel like they just kind of went to the well, and there's some songs here that just kind of hit a little too close to the original material. Like Grieving Winds, I don't know, like, I feel like that might be like a deliberate nod. I'm not entirely sure. I mean, it's a good nod because it sounds 100% like, you know, 2 of the songs that I picked out there. But like the rest of this, like, you know, it feels just very stock melodeath. And the fact that there are songs where they kind of open up, like, you know, The Silent Eye and Planetary Mortuary, I think those are 2 big standouts on here. Those songs kind of led me to believe that there was going to be more like that on here. And then kind of after that, it just kind of held the course. And, you know, it's a fine course. It's been plotted by many a band before, all of which that he probably just mentioned, minus Early In Flames. There's a ton of, like, old school bands that this sounds like. And, if you're a big fan of any of those bands and you just kind of want to hear that sound again, this album, and by extension, the rest of their albums too. While I do prefer their earlier albums, and actually the one before this one more, I still think this is a pretty solid effort. It's not trying to reinvent the wheel or do anything like that. It's just trying to deliver some solid melodeath, and for the most part, I'd say it succeeds. So yeah, check it out. So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, there's a link down below to thrallsmetal.com. Our Patreon link is there. It is also on our channel, up in the banner in the bottom right-hand corner. But if you're looking for Thralls Metal stuff, you have to go to thrallsmetal.com. We have new shirts. We have old shirts that are discounted, provided we have your size, and we even have hats, too. So, if you're looking for any of that stuff, click the link down below.
As always, tons of stuff going on at Thralls of Metal. I was just thinking about this. You know what I've done with my Thursday, Friday, and possibly Saturday nights for the last 5 years?
Masturbate.
Not here.
Thank God.
When I'm here, I do Thralls of Metal, and we have been doing this now pretty solidly for the last 5 years. We do it for you guys. We genuinely appreciate all of our subscribers and all the people that come in contact with us and talk to us all the time, although it doesn't make a lot of sense because I know us. You do, and we appreciate it. Album reviews coming, discography rankings, Meshuggah is next, collection updates, States of Metal, the Is It Metal or Is It Not Metal? Who Knows series, as well as a ton of other things coming your direction. Once again, we do it all for you guys.
Yeah, I will be gone the second week of April because I'll be in Philadelphia for the Decibel Metal and Beer Fest. So if you see me there, wave hi, come by, shake my hand, talk some metal, provided the bands aren't playing because I probably won't hear you. But yeah, I'm going to go do that. So I believe the other guys are going to take over that weekend, at least for a couple of reviews. And outside of that, I'm already working on a couple of other videos that should be a lot of fun. But yeah, the main thing is you guys are absolutely awesome. We love doing this, and there's a ton more coming your way. So one more big thank you because you're awesome.
Thank you.
And we will catch you later.